Hello, my name is Eric Schuler. I am the research consultant at the College of Information's Information Research and Analysis Lab at the University of North Texas. Today we're going to go through how to run a power analysis using the software package gPower. gPower is a free-to-use software package that can be used to run power analyses, such as Apriori, post hoc, compromise power analysis, criterion power, and sensitivity power, for both univariate and multivariate statistical analyses. The software can be downloaded from http://www.gpower.hhu.de/en.html. Here's the website. This website also contains gPower's user manual, as well as a short tutorial and references. In today's example, we're going to be running a power analysis for a new study to determine the sample size needed to detect an effect if an effect does exist, simply called power. According to Howell 2010, there are 4 factors that can affect power. First, the probability of type 1 error, or alpha equals 0.05. 2, the true alternative hypothesis. 3, sample size. And 4, the particular test that is utilized. The factor that we as researchers have most control over is sample size. Specifically, as sample size increases, we will have more statistical power. But there may be limits to the resources available to get and run participants, so it's really important to know what sample size is needed to have adequate power for a research study before conducting the study. This is called a priori power analysis. In this tutorial, we'll be conducting a power analysis a priori. As such, it will be necessary to use prior research to obtain an estimate of the effect size. We're going to pull up an article that used a one-way analysis of variance for this. The study we're pulling up is a social psychology study that assessed the role of expectations played in determining if absurdities were threatening to an individual's meaning system or their view of the world. More specifically, the outcome was the amount of bond set for an individual who was believed to have violated the participants' cultural norms, with higher bonds set reported as more threatening to the meaning systems, whereas low bonds were interpreted as low threat to the meaning system. In this example, we will be using Study 2 of Prolix, Hine, and Vo's 2010 article, When is the Unfamiliar the Uncanny? Meaning Affirmation After Exposure to Absurdist Literature, Humor, and Art, that was published in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin. To begin, let's scroll down to Study 2. In their study, there were 3 conditions. The first condition was expected-unexpected condition, in which participants were told the story was a parody of an adventure story for young boys. The second condition was unexpected-unexpected, in which participants were told the story was a classic adventure, but were not forewarned that there would be incongruencies and absurdities. And the third condition was a traditional joke with an unexpected punchline, but was sensible. As we can see, here are the 3 different conditions, as well as their hypotheses. Now, if we go down to the methods section, we can see that there were 90 participants, and that these participants were randomly assigned to one of 3 conditions. Based on this, we can assume a sample size of 30 per group. Now, if we look over at the results section, the authors report the means and standard deviations for the bonds for all 3 conditions, as well as the overall ANOVA results, along with the significance testing and the partial eta squared. Now remember, it's always important to report your effect size. Now to continue, I'm going to minimize the windows, and I'm going to open up gPower. Once gPower has loaded, we need to make a couple of changes. The first change we want to do is go to Test Family. We're going to change this down to F-Test since we're using an ANOVA. We're also going to change the statistical test from ANCOVA to an analysis of variance, fixed effects omnibus one way, which is the same analysis used in our example. The next thing we want to do is we want to keep the type of power analysis as a priori. There are other options, but for today we're going to stick with a priori. The next step is going to be adding in the effect size from the study we're using as our foundation. Since the study reported a partial eta squared, we need to convert this to an effect size for f-tests. But we don't have to get out our trusty calculators just yet. Instead, if we click on Determine, a box will open up on the right-hand side, and we can use this to import our effect size. This window is helpful if you want to use means and sample size for each condition to determine the a priori effect size. However, let's click on Select Procedure and click on Effect Size from Variance. Since we already have the partial eta squared from the paper, we can click on Direct and change the partial eta squared here to what was reported in the paper instead. Next, you can click on Calculate and Transfer to Main Window, and this will transfer and recalculate the partial eta squared into the effect size for f. As we can see now, the effect size for f is 0.27, which, based on these benchmarks, this is going to be about a medium effect size. Now the alpha probability is set at 0.05, which is our p-value set by the field. Now the power is set to 0.95. In some areas, acceptable power is 0.8. We want more power in our study though, so we want this to be 0.95. Now again, power is the ability to detect an effect if an effect does exist. If we lower our power to 0.8, our sample size needed will also decrease. It may be beneficial to be a bit conservative on the effect size as well and reduce this a bit, so that if the effect is smaller than anticipated, we still have adequate statistical power, especially since we'll be changing a condition and we don't know how this could impact the results. So for now, let's adjust the effect size f from 0.27 to 0.20. Since we have 3 conditions in our study, we will change the 5 here to a 3. Now we can click on Calculate. We can now see that our total sample size required for the study to have adequate power is 390 participants, with an actual power of 0.9504621. Now the total sample size comes out to 130 participants per group for a total of 390. G-power also gives us a visualization of the area of error, 0.05, with the overlap of our beta or power. The red curve represents the null hypothesis or central distribution, and the blue curve represents the distribution of alternative hypothesis or non-central. If we click on Protocol of Power Analyses, we have all our test information, which includes our a priori effect size, error probability, our power, number of groups, as well as our total sample size and actual power. This other information would be helpful for a thesis or dissertation proposal or any time you want to determine adequate sample size for your research endeavor. G-power allows you to run power analyses on many different univariate and multivariate tests. I would recommend looking over the manual available on the G-power website to learn to conduct power analyses for these other statistical tests. Thank you for watching our walkthrough of conducting a power analysis using G-power. Please be sure to visit the IRA Lab webpage to view recent research tips. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.